self-awareness. Do you want to click? Okay. These statements I'm sure you'll be more than familiar with. Okay. Carol Dweck's statements are to try and elicit people's beliefs about what they believe about intelligence, and she does the same for personality, the same for talent. Okay. What Jeremy and I recognise, they're quite broad, they're quite general. People say, oh, what's intelligence? We say, well, don't worry about defining intelligence. Actually, Carol Dweck was pretty smart in not defining intelligence. But we've broken things down and used a more granular approach. And we've put some examples of the things we've done on your table called continuums, because Carol Dweck herself recognises that mindsets are on a continuum from fixed to growth. We can be anywhere on that continuum at any moment in time, and our environment might dictate where we are. So we say, well, on a scale of 0 to 100, rate your belief about the role of innate ability, so what you're born with, in the areas which are in those grey boxes down the left-hand side. Okay, a 0 would be a little bit like Carol Dweck's statement 1, which is you've got a certain amount of ability in this area, there's not much that can be done to really change it. And 100 would be your belief that you can always substantially change your ability in this area, a bit like Carol Dweck's statement 4. And what we ask people to do is to go down those things and say, what do they believe about the changeability of that particular area? And we get all sorts of results, because basically it's about beliefs, it's what people believe. And what we know is that as a tool to get people to think about what they believe about things is really helpful. And what we tend to do is we do this before people know anything about growth mindset. So this is almost the first thing we do in our training before we talk about what growth and fixed mindsets are. So we just say to people, we put Dweck's statements up as an example, we get them to do this in whatever area it is that's relevant to them. And we find people generally have the sorts of scores. This is a cricketer, 14-year-old cricketer who completed it. He's got quite fixed beliefs about anticipation. He scored that a 10, and inner drive, motivation a 20. But yet he's got quite a growth mindset about endurance, about strength. And when we did this actually with a group of cricketers, we found that the psychological and technical aspects generally scored a lot lower. Okay? They had much more fixed beliefs about those things, actually, funny enough, which were taught less explicitly. Things like physical and more, what was it?
The physical and technical. Tactical and psychological.
The tactical and psychological. The physical and technical were the ones that they generally scored higher, because they're the things that their coaches would spend more time with them on and teaching them, and that they'd spend more time doing, so they actually see themselves get better. But some of the more tactical and psychological components, they didn't really get that they were things that could develop. You're either born like that or you're not.
I mean, I did a complete study at a European tournament, which Scotland were there, and Scotland actually, for information, had the most growth-minded views of all the teams that were there. But one of the really fascinating statistics that came out of it was that 3 out of the 5 teams, the highest score in those teams were the captains. And the 4th team was captain was validated by the coach and the assistant coach when they looked at it, and the 5th team said they were a weak team and they just picked the best player to be the captain because that was the way they went about it. So if you think about the behaviours of leadership and what we want to see, it's actually those people potentially who have more of a growth mindset are the people that actually get put into leadership positions, or we would hope would be in leadership positions.
But obviously we do this with teachers quite a lot as well, and we get all sorts of conversations coming out, and we had one teacher who was circling 100 for everything. Well, why wouldn't you put 100 for everything if you're a teacher? Of course you would believe that everything could, and you've got like other teachers on the table kind of hiding their continuums like this. But again, it's about beliefs, and it's fine if you've got a fixed mindset about something. Once you recognise it and you understand it, you can then decide if you want to do something about it. So it's not a thing for people to feel bad about when we go through the presentation. It's just, well, now you know where you might hold belief about that actually potentially, if you're head of a department and you're scoring 10 for that subject, maybe you need to think about a little bit about what's going on there. And that is something that we have had. So we're going to show a little video, I think, now of 2 cricket coaches who are talking about their different scores.
Yeah, I scored them all 0 because I thought things, just personally for me, motivation, bounce back ability, things like that, I think that's quite like an inner drive and comes from someone within them, and I think you are born either like motivated, things like that. That's all personally for me, but yeah, I think it is something you are born with, and you can't really teach that as much. Yeah, so I scored 95, purely because my background is a military background, and I've seen we obviously get people in who are perhaps not that resilient or don't have that in place, and then we teach them to build that resilience. So we put them in situations where they are under a lot of pressure, and then have to develop those skills. And if you see people 6 months later, they're different people, and they've developed that skill.
Okay.